Hi everyone, welcome to week 3 of English 122. Just as I'm recording this video, my dog is sitting right next to me and he really wants to go on a walk. So you might hear him whine a little bit. I'll take him out right as I'm done with this. But I wanted to give you an overview of what we'll be doing this week. So in our week 3 module, as you know by now, you always go to the to the overview page for each week. The video that you're watching will go right here. And if you scroll down, you'll see a little schedule of activities. So you'll have a few things to read before Wednesday, and really importantly, a draft of the first major writing assignment needs to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. For Sunday, you'll complete a peer review of another student's draft and also do a process portfolio entry. So let's go through each of these one by one. So the first reading that you'll do is called Shitty First Drafts. It's by Anne Lamott, and it does a really good job of helping you understand that drafts are not supposed to be polished. They're not supposed to be perfect. They're just an exercise about getting something on the page. So it's a really good reading for this week since you'll be submitting a draft of your first major writing assignment on Wednesday. So you can find this in our Writing About Writing textbook from pages 87 to 92. And whether you're using the online version of the book or the hard copy, the page numbers are both the same in each one. The next thing you'll do is submit a draft of your major writing assignment number 1 for peer review. Now this needs to be submitted by Wednesday at 11:59, and because we need to have time for the peer review between Thursday and Sunday, there is no grace period for this assignment. Say that again, there's no grace period for the draft assignment because we need to have time for people to give feedback for the peer review. So you can see I've written that down here. There's no 48-hour grace period for this assignment like there is for our other assignments. It must be submitted by Wednesday at 11:59. On Thursday, you'll see that you have been assigned another student's paper to peer review here in Canvas, and that review needs to be completed by Sunday. So just a quick little note about how the grade for this works. I'll give you half credit, so that's 50 out of 100 points, for submitting your draft by 11:59 on Wednesday, and then you'll get another 50 points for completing a thoughtful peer review by 11:59 on Sunday. So the timeline this week really matters. It really adds up. And then just a quick reminder, the drafts that you submit for this class over the course of the semester are combined worth 30% of your grade. So this is not an assignment that you want to take lightly. This isn't one that you just want to skip. It has a big impact on your grade, so please make sure that you're prioritizing this assignment. All right. The next thing I want you to read after you've submitted your draft is an article. It's the best one I found about peer review and how to do a good peer review. It's by someone named Richard Straub, and it's called Really Responding to Other Students' Writing. And I've linked the PDF for you here. You can click this link and download the PDF. I want you to read this before you do your peer review. That's why I have this due on Wednesday. A lot of times peer reviews are not that useful because the student opens their classmate's draft and reads it and just says, yeah, this sounds really good to me. I think you did a great job. That's nice, but it's not helpful. You want to give constructive feedback while at the same time understanding that you're not the teacher, you're not the one grading this. The whole goal is for you to tell somebody else how you're responding to what they wrote. What's missing? What doesn't make sense to you? What could the person say more about? And the Straub reading is really going to help you learn how to do an effective peer review. So that's why I have this in here, and that's why I want you to read it before Wednesday. Now for Sunday, for the second half of the week, you'll be working on that peer review. So Thursday morning, you'll get the peer review assigned to you, and it needs to be completed by Sunday. On this page here, I've created kind of a fake assignment. I wanted you to have something in Canvas that had a due date associated with it for the peer review. So you have that reminder in your Canvas to-do list. And then I've also added this little video I found that tells you how to find the paper that you've been assigned to peer review. So if you've never done this before in Canvas, this video will help you see how you go about actually doing the peer review in Canvas. So for this assignment that we're looking at here, there's nothing you need to submit. Everything related to this peer review is tied to the assignment that's called Do MWA1 Draft for Peer Review. That's where you submitted your own peer review. So I hope that's not confusing. I'm trying to do this in a way that makes it so that you have the reminders and the due dates set up, but so that the grades are also really transparent too. I want to make sure that you understand where these points are going and where they're coming from. The last thing to do this week is your week 3 process portfolio entry. And for this one, because this is our first peer review, I want you to write about your experience completing this peer review and specifically how you implemented what you learned from that article by Richard Straub. How did you implement what you learned when you did this peer review? What was that process like? Do you feel like it was a better experience than you've had before, or was it more difficult? I want you to just think about how that experience went for you and write about that this week. So that takes us through week 3. Next week, your final draft for major writing assignment number 1 will be due. So keep that in the back of your mind. But for this week, we're just focused on the drafts and the peer reviews. As always, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just email me and I'd love to chat. Thanks, everybody.